As I've grown older, Shamar, I have learned to lean into the chaotic way my mind works, but in a creative way.
I was told, Shamar, the work is beautiful. Okay, we get that, but we want to see you. People are invested in you.
I was never afraid to share my writing, and I noticed that in my sharing, I got better because one thing, I was always open to
truth in the air, let it speak.
T with Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got them made.
Okay.
People will get them.
I love that. Yes, I need one.
I got you.
Cool. So, you ready? You feel good?
Just tell me, am I looking at you? Am I good? Are we?
Yeah, you're looking at me.
Okay.
I can see you.
Okay.
I can hear you just fine.
Turn
now
you all
I'm
up.
gonna try my best to look right here in the teleprompter, but I keep looking over there because it's easier for me to see you. But I'm gonna try to force myself to be right here. And that's really
what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna try to look at you when I'm talking, but naturally I'm gonna look at the screen. But I'm gonna keep looking this way. Okay.
Hey, what's going on, good people? It is Shamar, and we are back with Creative Roots Podcast. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. And first, I want to give a shout out to Allen Love Studios. I would like to thank us. I would like to give a shout out to Charlotte Podcast Studio. I would like to thank us. And finally, a special shout out to Artbox Charlotte. I would like to thank us. And listen, people, no, your eyes are not deceiving you. Y'all are seeing Shamar, Tay's trusty sidekick, on camera. And I'm going to tell you why. So for those that know and follow, Tay, when he's comfortable and familiar with a guest, what he does is kicks off his shoes and he sits crisscross applesauce. When I'm comfortable and familiar with a guest, I get on camera. You know what I mean? Y'all know I'm normally behind it, but yes, I have somebody here that I am comfortable with, I'm familiar with, and I actually love this guy too. He is my cousin. His name is Quintin Charles Sapora. I said that right?
You said that right.
That's a hyphenated, you know what I'm saying? So
it sounds like child support, but it's child support.
It does.
It does.
So yes, it's Quintin Charles Sapora. This is my cousin. He's my baby cousin. He's coming to us all the way from Chicago, so he is recording virtually. And listen, the set is the same, guys, but you know, the mood is a little different here. The lighting is different. And the reason why is because this was what that conversation is going to be. My cousin is a writer. Let's be very clear. I have to say up front that he is an avid lover of Tina Turner and all of her music and her life. He also is an educator, and he is the host of a podcast, and that podcast is T with Q. So, you know, this guy, even when he tells a general story about his day, you know, his day at work, he narrates it so well, and it just feels like you're reading a novel. And I know this conversation is probably going to lend to that. So I was like, what better way than to get the setup and get the environment ready for this good story he's going to tell. And plus, oh yes, I have my tea. It's ready to hear this. So, Quintin, I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for coming in and having a conversation with me, man.
You know what? Listen, I want to say this to everyone. First of all, I can't thank you enough, Shamar, for allowing me to be a part of this show today. I am always just elated when I'm around you in life or in work. You know, funny story is when I graduated college, I was working with Shamar when we were at the bank. So we've always seemed to somehow find our way to each other.
Yes.
So just to have me on this show is just, I'm very just grateful for that. And I'm glad to, you know, just be a part of this. And I can't wait to dive into the conversation. I do want to say, he led off with a very strong introductory, and it was very humbling to hear you talk so nicely about me. I hope when the cameras aren't running, he'll do the same, you know.
Hey, listen, I'm going to invoice you for that intro later.
Hey, I got you. Hey, I'd rather go on the show and you introduce me anytime you want. No, seriously, thank you. Thank you.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and well deserved, and it's so much more that could be put into that. And I just want the audience, go ahead and get in the comments now. Y'all heard how he just spoke in that brief moment right there, how poetic it was, and I just love how you talk. You listen, if I ever write me a book, which you still owe us one, by the way, but if I ever write one, you're gonna definitely be the narrator of that audio book. So yeah,
I got you. And listen, there's so much I can say about you and your creative journey and what you do. I stand astounded just watching your path. I know you just celebrated 10 years because I saw it come up on social media the other day.
Yes.
So it is inspiring to see what you are doing and just how many lives that you're touching, but also the creativeness that you are also bringing. So thank you
Quintin,
for that.
excuse me, Quintin, if you don't turn that phone off.
Listen, I don't know. You saw me down here mess with my watch. He gonna take that out, I hope.
Yo,
I got you.
And listen, in the words of Tay, we don't edit nothing. So turn that phone off.
I'm turning it off. Y'all know I know better than that. My job. There we go. It's off. Okay.
Good deal. So y'all just saw how we just loved on each other. And I think, us as brothers need to do that more often. But that was very genuine. And I meant it from the bottom of my heart. And I know he has because he has shared that multiple times and stuff. So I thank you for saying that too. But I want to jump on in. This is Creative Roots, and we just like to talk to other creatives and figure out their journey, just discuss that. And then just starting it out, I want to know what got you on your creative journey.
For such a long time, I will tell you, I've always had a creative mind. I wish that I could shut my mind off, and that is the truth. It being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I actually have leaned into the chaos of the way I think. And I know that sounds crazy or maybe like, what is he talking about to some people? But as I've grown older, Shamar, I have learned to lean into the chaotic way my mind works, but in a creative way. So what that means to me is there's some times where I have a thought, I have an idea, and I can't get it out quick enough. Some people journal, some people record it with their voice. There's so many avenues and paths now. But, there was a venue where I would write and I would write and I would journal and I would get it out. And I started writing back when I was in college. I took some creative writing courses, and that was just something I was very passionate about, still passionate about to this day. But I'm sad to say I have not started that great American novel. However, I really found a passion in telling a story. And as you said earlier, I've learned how to tell a story, but I'll tell it in a different way now. Now, I'm late to the game. I will say I'm 43 years old, and there have been people who have been on the podcast journey for a long time. But I've always listened to podcasts. I do like, docuseries, crime, all kind of stuff. But I thought to myself one day, I said, what if I started the podcast journey for myself? What if I started telling a story, but telling it from the framework of what I feel, what I think, my perspectives, being creative, but in a different way? I will say this too, and y'all know I'm gonna keep it real. Just even watching Shamar set up, this is like, I feel like a country bumpkin. I'm sitting here in this chair and I don't have nothing behind me, but looking at your setup. But here's the thing, when I started the podcast journey, I got in my little, what I call my office. I have some plants in here, some books, a little sunroom. And I just sat behind my desk one day, and I'll tell you, and guys, I do refer to him as cousin. That's my endearment towards him. But cousin, I sat behind my desk and I just started talking. I started talking and I started telling a story. And the more I began to tell the story, I started owning that story. It was uninhibited. I wasn't afraid to tell it. And I felt like that creativity, it came through in a different way. It wasn't just about writing anymore. It became an amalgamation of a story that became verbal, that became something that was relatable. And guess what? Nobody was in here with me. I'm telling this story, but nobody's around me listening. But the more I told it, I felt like somebody would want to hear it. Somebody would want to take this recording or this taping and it turned into something different. And that's how I started this capturing of my creativity. But I've always been creative in a sense to where I've held it close. I've shared it with people like you, my family. I've shared it with some close friends of mine. But to be creative and to share it all, that was a part of the journey that I did not share so much, if you will.
Right. Okay. Listen, you said a couple of things in there that I wanted to touch on. First thing you said was you're late to the party with podcasts, and I don't believe that to be true. Everyone, even on the journey, even outside of podcasting, just being a creative or finding your purpose and things like that, you're never late. We could talk about some of the actors and actresses that didn't start until they were in their 50s.
That's very true.
There's business owners that didn't start until later, so it was right on time for you. It was right at the right time. Second thing is that, yes, there is a difference between, your set and ours. You just said I'm in the game 10 years. I've been in this podcasting game 3 years. So, yeah, that shows evolution. You should have seen when we first started 3 years ago. And what we like to say, because we have it on a T-shirt, it's a record button, similar to the one that's on your camera. And the reason why the record is on the front and our logo is on the back is we strongly encourage our guests just hit the record button. And that's what you did. You got in your office, you had something to say, you hit the record button, and you captured that audio. And listen, in the beginning, most of it's going to be trash anyway, because you don't know what you're doing. But it grows. You have to get that trash out of the way first so that you can get to, something good, so that you can get your reps in and, feel your way. So, but I like hearing that. And you, as y'all see, here again, we have a writer over here. He tried to take me through the whole story and try answering some of my other questions, but we're going to get to those too. But we're going to back up a little bit with you said writing in college. That's when you started writing. What was it? Can you tell me again? What was it that you were writing? What you got inspired to write?
Yeah. So when I was taking a creative writing course, I'll never forget, his name was Dr. Shelby Stevenson. And, he took us through different ways of writing. But what I really appreciated about that course was he let you find your own way and your own craft. So that course was not about teaching you how to write, teaching you the syntax, the sentence structure, and diction, which words to use, but it was about, here's a thought, how do you create that framework, and what do you do with it?
Okay.
And I remember really taking that formula, and so there were times where I would feel something or I would think something, and I just went with it. Now, I will say, let me just kind of back up a little bit. Around that time, I was reading books by the late, great Elan Harris. And he inspired me in so many ways. I am openly gay, and I am a same gender loving man, and I'm in a wonderful relationship with my husband, Spencer Child Sapora. And I'll tell you, there was a time where I wouldn't have been able to say that freely and openly. And reading Elan Harris just motivated me, inspired me to look within. And I read his memoir, What Becomes of the Brokenhearted. And when I read that, I said, I want to try my hand at a memoir. And before we graduated, we went through our last seminar, and in Dr. Shelby's class, we had to write a memoir, or we had to write a segment of it. And I'll never forget, mine was titled, oh my God. It was titled, I'm sorry. Let the Healing Begin. That's what it was. I knew it was something. But I remember I was writing that memoir, and there was a lot of pain I was sharing in that memoir. Some things that I wasn't happy about in my own life, or just kind of like self-discovery. I was in a lot of that phase. But I remember this one line where it said, we were all in a dark room and we all felt the same pain, but I looked up and I heard someone say, let the healing begin. And I remember when I wrote that line, something freed me, cousin. I found not only my creativity, that I could write something like that, but I also found my voice. I found that there is healing. There is something that can usurp pain, but you have to find it. And I found it through writing. And then it just began to morph into other ways of expressing my creativity.
Right. I love that. I love hearing that. And then I remember that, you know, you were inspired by Elin Harris's memoir. I want to ask, were you there when Elin Harris came to Pembroke?
Oh, yes,
He
yes.
came, and because I read his books as well, and I had the honor of picking him up from the not the airport, his hotel,
Oh,
bringing him
wow.
to campus. I didn't want to fan out or anything, so I didn't disturb him as
I
I was
would have.
driving. But just being in the presence, I thought that was dope. So yeah. So what I heard was, you know, I don't want to say journaling, but technically, you know, it was therapeutic. That's really what I want to go
Yeah.
to. So writing was therapeutic for you. And I have seen you evolve from, you know, someone who, and I'm trying to choose my words. I don't know if it's fit in because I don't know what you were doing, but I saw you evolve into this person that can openly and happily say who you are and who you love, you know, and I think that's a
Yes.
beautiful thing because years ago that wouldn't have been the case. So I love that. I love that. So going through your creative journey has helped you get to this point and be able to stand in who you are.
Yeah. You see things differently when you get into that creative mode. It's almost like you're operating in a sphere. And when I say a sphere, it's, you know how most people, they describe this bubble that they might be in or that they're living in. I don't see it as a bubble. I see it as a place that I go where you do find your strength, but you also find a way to put things in words. You find a way to put a feeling to a word or a phrase, and you can explore it. So I think it is very important to not only be your creative self, but you bring your creativity to the true essence of who you are, whether it's good or bad in that moment. And I think that was the freeing part for me.
So that you were able to find your voice. So maybe, you know, you couldn't say it with your words or out loud, but you were able to creatively write it and you freed yourself. Oh, I like that. Now, also, now I'm gonna add this in there because it was one of your episodes, the first episode of yours that I heard. You know, you were talking about growing up that you had a speech impediment, you stuttered.
I
And, you
did.
know, it was our great grandmother that helped you through that. Do you think that possibly the speech impediment and, you know, what mother, that's what folks, that's what we call our great grandmother. We affectionately call her mother. Do you think that mother having you write things down, did that also contribute to you finding your voice or finding writing as a tool to find your voice?
That is a great question. I think that having a speech impediment and not being able to say what I wanted to say, what mother did was, and you're absolutely right, because in the episode, I talk a lot about how she loved to read the Bible, but there was one particular book that she loved to read, and it was Psalms. It was the first chapter of Psalms. And what I love so much about that particular scripture is it's very poetic because it talks about trees and rivers and being still and calming. And so when you ask me that, when I write down those verses or I wrote the words, I not only wrote them down, but I envisioned being like a tree planted by the rivers of still water. So in my chaotic brain, I'm thinking of this river and I'm thinking of me as a tree personified being still. I remember having those thoughts with
Okay.
mother. So yes, that absolutely, it helped me, but it trained me in a way to think of myself as what I am seeing or what I am reading.
Mm. Ooh, I like that. Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, that sounded good. I felt that. You know, so so moving it forward a bit. So that was back, you know, well, I guess when did you develop that or as you were going through your therapy and trying to get past your speech impediment? That was early years, right?
Yeah, so I stuttered all the way up until my 10th grade year in high school.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe you weren't aware of it then, and you found out after the fact that, going through that and mother giving you those tools and things that attributed to you finding your voice and then getting in college. Tell me the professor again. I forgot his name.
Dr. Shelby Stevenson.
Dr. Stevenson, gave you some tools as well and stuff. So that sounds like, you had support. Now that you find your voice, you find this tool, you like to write and stuff. What kind of support did you have along the way in that process of the writing and even leading us up to where we are today?
Yeah, so I found support in other writers. I would like to call them novice writers. We all kind of started together. We kind of created our own cohort, if you will, at the university that I attended, University of North Carolina, Pembroke.
Go Braves.
Yes. But we stayed in touch. But what I also did then, there was MySpace and there was, well, we're dating ourselves, right?
Right.
But you would
hold on. You're dating yourself. I didn't say it. Wait a minute.
We would write poetry. We would share, some of the things that we would write, excerpts or clips. I will also tell you the one thing that I used to always love doing. I love to write, and I would send it to a friend, and I would just say, "Hey, can you look at this? Can you read this?" I was never afraid to share my writing, and I noticed that in my sharing, I got better because one thing, I was always open to feedback.
Okay.
And the thing about creativity, I will say for me, it is about checking your ego, because when you're showing someone something that you've produced, the first thing you want to hear, and I'm just going to be honest with you, is, "Oh my God, that is good." That was, yes. And you're like, "Oh, thank you.
Yes.
But the first thing that they would say to me was, "Well, I might have thought about this one differently, or I might have maybe write it this way, or my word choice might be different." And the first thing you're thinking is, well, who you give it back, But you want to be able to understand their perspective. So it's good to ask, "Well, tell me more about how you read it that way, or how did it make you feel?" Now, it is something that's coming from you. And when we're talking about creativity, that's yours, that's subjective. But if you're sharing it, you should be open to that feedback, and it helps you become better at your craft, but it doesn't take away the creativity. And I had to learn that.
I did too. And because immediately when you said that, I thought about when I first started in photography, and if I sent the photos to the client and I didn't get an immediate, "Oh my God, I love them." Like, wait a minute, what's wrong?
Right.
Hello, and then even if someone said, "Hey, they wanted edit, can you do this?" It wasn't anything taken away from me. And then I had somebody actually rebook a shoot. They was like, I didn't like that one. And they rebooked and it came back in. So I asked them, I was like, "What can I do? What was it?" And it wasn't even me at all. It was them. They didn't like what they saw. They didn't like that outfit that they had on and stuff. So, but even in that, you can find some constructive criticism that is going to assist you. Yes. So I had to get past the immediate of, "I need to hear you say this is awesome so I can go on about my life."
Exactly.
And then one thing that my mom taught me that was a very important lesson that I carry to this day, and I tell others as they're coming into the game, is your opinion of your work is nobody's business. Because we're our hardest critics, right? And so I might be like, that wasn't one of my best photo shoots. But then the client's like, "Oh my God, I love it. These are this is exactly what we wanted, this and that." So your opinion is not for anybody to know. It's not their business. And to your point, I think that God gives us our gift to share with the world. It's not for us. It's for the world. So we have to share it. We have to get it out there. But to your point, when we get it out there, anything can come back, And yes, we're artists and we're sensitive about our stuff and all, but that comes with it once you share it with the world. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because I will tell you, as I write, as I put anything out, as I produce an episode on a podcast, the first thing that I do before I start writing or before I start even speaking, doing a recorded episode, I always take a deep breath, Shamar, and I think about what is it that I want to put out to the masses? What is it that I want to say and do? And inevitably, how will it help? How will it even benefit? You know? Right. And so when I think about that, I don't, hit publish after I finish the podcast and say, okay. No. But what I do is when I get that first message back or I receive something in my direct message box that says, wow, or that was beautiful, that is what inspires me.
Got it. Yes. Listen, and to that, I'm gonna add back onto, because you said that, you have in your mind what message you want to get out as well. And one thing to the whole sharing to the world is that we aren't in control of what somebody receives either. I know that there's photography projects that I've done, and I'm like, this is what I want the viewer to gain from it. I know that you've written pieces and you wanted them to get this from it, or you've done a pod and you wanted them to get this from it, but they could have gotten something completely different. But it was impactful for them. Just like I couldn't even tell you the episode with the speech impediment and you talking about mother. I can't even tell you what your message was. What I got from it, though, was nostalgia. I got me sitting there reminiscing on mother, and I'm hearing your story of how she handled you, but it had me reminiscing on how we interacted and the things that she did for me. So yeah, we may have an intention in whatever it is that we're creating, but we have no clue how somebody's going to receive it, interpret it, or how it impact them.
I think that is a very good point, and something that I appreciate. I mean, just saying I appreciate about something that I do is, I didn't want to come off that way, but I like how when I did start this journey of Tea with Q, kind of morphing my writing into more of a verbal way of telling a story or interacting with people via podcast. I didn't want to lock myself into whatever the messaging was or whatever I'm sharing. And I had to think long and hard about that. So when I said T, the T stands for topics, engagement, and activation. So for me, it's about when I am sharing, and then when I put it out there, I'm very clear about how do you engage around this topic? And I've even said, if this topic does nothing for you, that's fine, because guess what? That's engagement. And you can let me know that I don't have perspective on this, Quintin, or I don't think of it that way. That's engagement. And then the activation piece, which I really have found to be interesting, is, I've had messages from people that say, you know what? I didn't have perspective on that, but now I do. And this is how I want to somehow make this applicable for me. And I think that sharing that creative mind or that flow and then seeing how people work with it, to me, has been everything.
Love that. And I for the ones in the back, I'm gonna run back the acronym. You said topics, engagement, and activism, or activation. I'm sorry, activation. Yeah, I like that.
Right. That's who you are, cuz.
You got me. I like that though. I like that. So that leaves room for it to
doesn't
evolve
box me in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can talk about whatever I want.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And
so
it's
how is that? Because like, because that frees you up, to your point, to talk about whatever you want. And I think, and I don't know, if you have any favorite playwrights or anybody like that, but the one that I can think of right now, Tyler Perry, that was the first one that popped in my head. That man, he writes most of all the stuff, his projects and everything. And it's like all these characters, because and to me, it seems like writers, they go all over the place because they got so much going on. Just like, what was you calling it earlier? Chaos, or my chaotic mind and stuff.
My chaotic mind, yeah.
So that allows you, having this no restrictions, that allows you to go into multiple different areas and stuff. So no restrictions. Pretty smart.
Is that not who we are? I mean, I hate to kind of start this kind of conversation or lean more into it, but you can always stop me. But when I think about it, there's always been so much inside of me, so much that I've wanted to get out. And hey, you kind of started off speaking of the speech impediment. That can be indicative of what it was, or something. I don't have that anymore. But what if there still is this notion of, I got to get it out. I got to get it out. I got to process it. So when I'm thinking of something, and you know what? Sometimes it's what I see. It's what I feel. And I have to figure out, what does this mean to me? And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, Shamar, it might not mean a thing to me, but I need to talk through it.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that you're absolutely right. Through this creativity, through this pathway of being creative, you become this person or this voice, and you get to process it, and you process it in such a different way. I think sometimes if you take away the word creativity, it becomes synonymous to different. So there's a different way for me to talk about something. People might write something, but you being creative, you're going to be different in how you write it, and then how you share it. So that's just how I feel it in my bones.
I get that. And listen, I think that is every creative out there. You have it in you, and you got to get it out. I've heard too many times musicians say that they just had something in their head and they just had to get it out, and for me, it's the same thing. If I see something visually, because I like to think that I see the world differently than most, and if it's just something, I have to go capture it, or I have to create a project around it, and, this ain't about me, so I ain't gonna stay too long, but 7 publications, and each one of them I did because I was just, it was just on me. It was just on me. I have to capture this series, and it was about capturing things that I enjoy, and what I wanted to see in print. I'm a person that has tattoos, and not too many people of color are in these tattoo magazines. Well, I'm gonna create my own tattoo magazine with all people of color. You know what I mean? You have to get it out one way or another, and however it lands is however it lands. But you are going to have it on you until you release it.
Yes.
Good stuff. I love that. So now with speeding forward, no, not speeding. We've been talking, and I love what we've been talking about. But moving,
get on with it. That's the speed.
Move this thing forward.
I'm like, oh my god, okay.
But no, with the podcast, so this is mainly your thoughts. Now, I haven't run across that. Have you had anybody on your show, or what's kind of like the framework is really just you?
Yeah, so I have had a guest. His name is Dr. Michael Dreiss, and he did a phenomenal episode. It was more about change. He's this doctor, and just dealing with ego, dealing with how life evolves, and how he walked away from a decade of working in the ER and saying, you know what, I want to go and do something different. But was it the title that would have kept him doctor, or was it something in his view that showed him that he wanted to change? So I have had guests, but just kind of talking about that. I normally host our own show on my own accord, but I have began to have guests. This is Pride Month and also Men's Health Awareness Month. So I do have some exciting guests coming on this month to talk and to share their stories and why they're proud. So more to come on that one. But I have began to invite people. So I've been exploring that, but it's still, in that framework of topics, engagement, activation. So these people who come on, even with the doctor, he represented a topic, and that topic was leaning into change. What is change?
Right.
How do you view it? So that was a very exciting one.
While we're here, can you go ahead and tell our viewers where they can find Tea with Q?
Absolutely. I am on Apple and Spotify, and it's Tea with Q, TEA with Q.
And that is topics, engagement, and activation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
good stuff.
Yes,
and you
yes.
and you also have a IG and a Facebook page for Tea with Q?
Yes, I do. And the handle is Tea with Q.
Yep. Okay. Across the board. So that's
I
consistent.
kept it all simple because I didn't want to forget what it was myself.
Because you are a man of a certain age. Remember, you just dated yourself with MySpace.
And I still look good.
Still look good.
You too.
Y'all, that's a Wait Until Exhale reference.
Yes.
He's been saying it for years.
Let me say that too. You do know me, and the things that have inspired me. But if we're talking about creativity here, I have been inspired by writers like Elan Harris, Terry McMillan, and then movies that we've grown up watching. That is creativity to me. That is the epitome of it. And so when you say, Tina Turner, yes, I am a Tina Turner junkie through and through. But I think of that creativity. I think of these people who live their life. Tina Turner said it best. She said, when I go on stage, I become a different person. That is Tina. She says, but when I'm not on stage, I'm Anna Mae Bullock.
Absolutely.
I'm quiet. She said she didn't even like to listen to music in her house. She would just be still and quiet, and I think that that's a lot of me as well. A lot of people think me to be an extrovert, but when I don't have to be, I am a very quiet person. I like to be in my house on my own. And guess what? I don't like to go places. People don't know that about me, but I'm okay with that. But when it comes to, and I love how you put it, when I start thinking about things in my chaotic brain, beautiful chaotic brain,
yes,
because I've learned to accept that, I do steal away and I think about what is it that I need to say or what is it that I need to process. And that's when I, so to speak, I get on stage and then I become this person who I share something beautiful. But at one point in time, I didn't think it was beautiful. I thought it was ugly. I thought it was broken. I thought it was scrambled. If you want to talk about, an impediment, it wasn't just a speech impediment, but it was a love impediment. I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to bring forth whatever was in me. But now that I can do that, I'm very grateful for my creativity or my different.
Yes.
So that's where I am.
Okay. And I love to see it. I remember when you were relocating from Charlotte, and I was like, I think this is best for you because you're going to become a man, and, to see you on that journey, I wasn't there all the years, in it, close with you like we did in college and things like that. But just to see the evolution throughout the years and you become a beautiful man, and that in and of itself is the journey. That is a part of the creative journey. That is the part of the different and everything, and everything that we go through, it contributes to that. And I'm hearing the healing, I'm hearing the change, and even you're talking about it on your pod, and I just love to see it. That's it. Long and short of it. Now, the thing is you made the comment earlier of I'm late in the game or late to the party with the pod. I'm not harping on that piece, but I'm just bringing that back up because there are other viewers that think that, and they're not doing anything. They're overthinking it. I call it analysis paralysis, right? So they're wanting it to be perfect. I don't have the right mic. I don't have the right whatever, long and short of it, I would like for you to give, a gem, drop a seed, if you will, to the next generation or that creative, that person that has a voice that they want to get out there, but they're holding back from doing it because they're 43, 44. What would you plant in them?
I would say trust yourself.
Mm.
And when I say trust yourself, the reason why we go into a state of paralysis is because maybe we've messed up. Maybe we've done things that have caused us to feel that if I put my hand towards this, it'll fail. Or if I open my mouth and I begin to say some words, maybe I've messed up with my words before. So I think people live in that not only paralysis, but sometimes people just have PTSD, cousin. You know, they find themselves in this cyclical way of failing, and maybe it's not failing. They have to think about it differently. And when you think about things differently, that's when you start trusting that I can do this and I can do this on my own accord. So I say that to say, I would tell somebody, trust yourself. When you begin to put your creative mind to work, trust that when you hit record, trust that when you pick up that pen and begin to write, what is coming out of you is going to be exactly what you need to share. It's going to be exactly what is for someone else. I've always been a proponent of, now I do believe what we go through is what we go through. You know, it is personal. It happens.
Yeah.
But you know what I've learned? You're right on this healing journey. Everything that I have went through, even if it was self-inflicted, somehow has been able to be impactful and good for someone else. I had to, and I'm bringing it home, trust myself to tell the honest story, to not hold back, to not be afraid that I would fail or that I would mess up. But I had to trust myself to tell the story. So whenever I hit record, I'm trusting myself. I might not get it right the first time. I might not be perfect at it, but I'm going to share something and it's going to impact me. And hopefully it might impact someone else, but you have to trust yourself. So that's what I would say to someone.
I love that. I love that, man. Oh, this has been a great conversation. You know, at first I was like, when you started off and I asked that first question, you start answering all myself like, wait a minute, I got to jump in here. You know, these writers, these people that like to talk.
I'm sorry. I do, you know, I've learned to I do listen to not respond. I will tell you that I listen and I don't respond, but I'll tell you, when you start talking about something that you're just passionate about and that you love, and then when you're in good company, you know, and just like I said, I mean, you know, not to throw it back on you, but you know, just sitting here and watching you, King, you know, and just seeing how you have just stood in a monument of just greatness, you know, it's so inspiring. And, you know, when you talk about the healing journey or what would you give to someone else, this is essentially what you're doing. You know, you're planting that seed, creative roots. You know, there's so many things that grow from us. And just as a Black man, I have learned that it doesn't all die. You know, sometimes it just has to be re-cared for. And that's where I am in my creativity. Sometimes you have to care for something differently with your words or how you think about something. You know, the last thing I'll say on this is when I'm doing a podcast and I'm thinking about a particular topic, Shamar, I'm thinking about a different way to talk about it rather than the same way that people have heard it before. And I think that's where the creativity or the different comes from. So
good stuff. Good stuff. Now, one thing for me to throw at you, you know, you like I said, you're gonna narrate my audio book. And I love that. And, you know, podding started with the audio side. So I love that. But I want you to also consider, you know, video soon, real soon. And
listen.
And hold on, I got more. I got more.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to say when you come back home, when you get back here to Charlotte, you are going to come to Charlotte Podcast Studio, and that will be your introduction into the video side.
Okay. I don't have a rebut to that. And I have said this because I can't even tell you how many people have written in via email, direct message on Facebook, T with Q, or Instagram, and all of that. They're like, we want to see you. Can you do a video? And you know what I tell them? I want you just to listen. just listen. But I am also understanding that, there are people who are visual. I don't know why they want to see me,
but hold on. It's very important. That's a lesson I had to learn. When I first started photography, I was just posting the work. On my IG page, it had nothing to do with me, and it was just the images that I shot. And I was told, Shamar, the work is beautiful. Okay, we get that, but we want to see you. People are invested in you. They wanted to see me do the work. They wanted to see my personality. And when I finally got past that and started showing myself behind the scenes and talking to the people and stuff, that created more, not necessarily more engagement, but it created more bookings, more opportunities. Oh, I've watched you. Because now they can put a face to it. You know what I'm saying? And even with what you do in the pod world, the message is clean. The message is great. They can get it. But once especially people, as your audience grows, they want to see you give it that message. You know what I mean? And that is how they connect with you. And what we've learned is that people need 7 hours in front of you to feel comfortable enough to bite, if you will. Bite meaning whatever you're selling, if you're selling something, right? So, 7 hours, I'm saying 70, excuse me. So you get that. Yes, we can hear your voice, and yes, we know it. But then if they can visually put the face to the voice and everything, that'll help them connect more. That'll get them more familiar and buy more into it. So
I'm open to it. Yeah. I'm open to it. I am. And I received that feedback. We talked about feedback earlier. So yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, listen. I want you to tell them one more time where they can find T with Q.
You can find me on Apple and Spotify, and that is T with Q, TEA with Q.
Cool.
And Instagram and Facebook.
And all across the board, T with Q.
All across the board, I made it simple.
Listen, cousin, I love you. I appreciate this conversation. And I thank you just for coming on here and just chopping it up with me and the people that follow us.
I want to say I equally appreciate you even taking the time to, share this space with me, asking me questions that are relevant to what I'm doing in my inaugural phase on my pod journey. But I want to say thank you to you, and I appreciate you, and thank you so much for just celebrating someone else. But what you do is so instrumental, and thank you for what you're doing for our community.
Oh, absolutely. And hey, everyone, I want to appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Creative Roots Podcast, where seed songs become visions grown, and we'll catch you in the next one. I want y'all to get in the comments to tell Tay I can run this show. All right, till the next time. Peace.
Thank you.